everybody, and welcome back to a new episode of Dental Operations Unpacked. We are thrilled today to have a new guest, a new friend with us. This is Lesie Espanola, super accomplished professional in group dentistry, and we are thrilled to have her. Lesie, thank you so much for taking some time to join us today.
Well, thank you guys. I appreciate it. I'm glad to be here.
Clint and I had a chance to get to know Lesie briefly, and her background is super impressive. And what she's doing now is awesome. She works at DEO as a fractional COO and executive coach. She has founded High Peak Dental Advisors as well, and worked at multiple group dental organizations. I don't know exactly how many, but it seemed, as I did my research, it was 5 or 6 or something like that.
Yeah.
So she has probably seen it all, hence why she is now coaching and helping other people avoid the mistakes that she made and implement the things that helped her be successful. So super accomplished. We're really grateful for her to take some time with us. And the topic today that we're going to be discussing is about scaling, talking specifically about operational pillars that every practice needs before they scale. Sometimes growth exposes problems that you maybe you weren't aware of. Sometimes there are things that you know you need to do, but you don't know how to do it. And we want to pick Leslie's brain a little bit to talk about some pillars and things that are really important before they scale. But before we get into the actual topic, Lesie, I want to give you a chance. I did a quick, brief intro, but there's probably a lot more that people should know. So if you don't mind, take a quick second, let our guests know a little bit more about you, where you've come from specifically, and let them know how awesome you are, because Clint and I know.
And how you got into dentistry. We always love hearing that. That's fun.
Yeah, well, you're going to make my head expand. So I am coming in hot. This September, it'll be my 35th year in this industry. It's the only industry I've ever known. It's the only jobs I've ever had. My father was a general dentist, and I started with him out of college, and I worked clinically with him for 15 years. And when we started back in the olden days, we were paper charts, it was paper schedules, it was, everything was manual, paper claims. Well, by the time we had 2 operatories. He did all of his own cleanings. There were 5 of us in the office. When I left 15 years later, we were 22 operatories, 2 surgical suites, all specialty except for pedo, because he didn't like kids running around the office. And we had all the latest and greatest in technology. And so my background, and the great thing about him, which I can honestly say, and I think most dentists will tell you today, they don't have a business background. They don't understand the business side of their practice. My father did, and that was super helpful for me. So, after spending 15 years in his clinic and all of those specialties and being a treatment coordinator with him in all those specialties, I was able to move on into some consulting type of positions, and consulted for many years with some larger MSOs, both in the general and the orthodontic space. And then from there, I've worked in, community health as director of operations. I have worked with multi-specialty, multi-unit DSOs and MSOs. And now I'm here hoping to, kind of finish out the back half of my career coaching dentists and specialists on how to grow their practices and scale. And that's what I do. So, and I love it. And I work with all kinds of dentists, all different personalities, all different teams, and all different scenarios. And so I still learn every single day. Every day.
That's incredible. 35 years in dental.
35 years.
It.
I was going to go into the FBI. I was going to be a forensic specialist. That's what I went to school for. And my dad said, hey, while you're figuring it out, just come into the practice and work with me. Well, there I am, 15 years later. Never did. Right, right.
At what point were you like, I want to be a forensic specialist?
Yeah. I wanted to go on scene like you see in TV nowadays.
Oh, yeah, CSI.
And do all that fun stuff for the FBI. And
Okay.
here I sit in dentistry.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And Leslie, now, if I'm not mistaken, you kind of specialize consulting and helping organizations that are at that scaling point, whether they're at it or just coming to it, right?
That's right. That's exactly right. I work with single office practices. I work with doctors who have multiple locations and that want to continue to scale and create their own DSO, smaller DSO. So yeah, I work at all levels in all specialty as well. So, ortho's known for having multiple locations. So I've got several orthodontists that just want to go really, really big.
So,
Yeah.
why do you feel like that point of starting to scale or during the scaling process, that those operational weaknesses are amplified? Like they start to feel the pain of maybe some of the operational pieces they were missing that they could do manually before. What are some of those things that you see?
Well, every dentist will tell you that they don't quite understand the business side. That's why they bring someone like me in, because they want to scale, but they don't know what to do. They don't know what to look at where they're sitting right now. So I come in and I expose some gaps that maybe they have that they didn't realize they have. So we have to get those gaps filled. We've got to fix what's not working before they can take it to the next level, because you can't, when you move too fast, right? When a doctor moves too fast, it's overwhelming. It's not only overwhelming for them, and it causes burnout for the doctors because they're thinking all kinds of things at one time. They're entrepreneurs. They're still at that entrepreneur level of I'm chairside. I've got a lot going on in my current practice. I want to open up 3 and 4 more practices. I need to hire people. I need to figure this out. It's too much at one time. So they need to slow down and they need to think of themselves as an executive and not as just a chairside entrepreneur, because that doesn't ever work that way. So, getting to that executive level of, okay, I can sit and I can look at the big picture of these operations. I can take the time that I need away from the chair and figure out what I need to do with my team, with my current location, and fill some gaps before I can take this to the next level, because you got to carry what's right into the next one. You can't carry what's not working into the next one. It will fail.
I like the word you use, chairside entrepreneur, right? They've been the ones hands on deck. Every bit of production is done by them, but in order to scale, they have to have things dialed enough that they can now step away from that chairside entrepreneur, move into that executive role where now they're leading the production team and not being the actual producer themselves. And it's a big mindset shift. It's an operational shift. There's a lot to it. That there's a lot of planning that goes into it. So I really like that word, those words that you used, chairside entrepreneur, moving away from that to an executive.
And you
And
said
that's where most of them get stuck. I'm sorry, go ahead.
oh, I was gonna say your dad. You said your dad was more, he was more aware of the business side and involved in it. But you also mentioned he did all of his cleanings. Was that just at the beginning?
That was at the
Was he
beginning.
always planning on making it bigger?
Oh yeah, that was at the beginning. When we were first starting, he had just opened his practice. When we left, we had 8 hygienists. When I left, we had 8 hygienists.
Incredible. What
Yeah,
fun growth. What a cool
it
thing to be a
was
part of.
fun. It was fun to be a part of and fun to watch and learn from, because I've been able to take that experience, what worked back then and what didn't work back then, and carry it forward to what I know now and pass that on, even still today, all these years later. That's 20 years later. I can still take some of that knowledge and those experiences and carry it into what I'm doing today for other dentists.
Love it.
I want, before we get to the actual pillars of the operational pillars that we want to talk about, I want to just dig into one more component of this that I think sets the stage really well for those pillars. And that's specifically the costs of scaling when you don't have that clarity, accountability, and focus. Like, what do you see happen? What are the consequences of trying to scale without those? What do you see most often?
What I see most often is that the dentists have to take a cut in what they're earning. It's coming out of their pocket. It's not coming out of the team's pocket. It's not coming out of what they're trying to do for their new locations and other, building their locations and the equipment that's going in and their capital expenses, that's all coming out of their own pocket. So they're not bringing home what they're used to bringing home or what they want to. And so they're not ready for that. So that's, they go into this thinking, oh, I'm going to do really well and I'm going to make a lot of money and bring it home to my family and I'm going to be able to pay my team really, really well. And it ends up that they start failing. Their bottom line number, bottom line number should be 20+% makes a healthy practice. And they see them at 3% and 4%, and that's before they're taking their pay, owner pay. And it hurts them. And they don't know how to dig out of that hole. And that's the problem. So that's why we have to get that first location running very well. It needs to be a fine oiled machine so that you can pass what's working in that location into your next one. And you know how you did it, right? So then it becomes easy. And when you're running a fine oiled machine, that bottom line number just grows, which is going to help you to create and build that second location, third, fourth, fifth location.
So let's dive in now to these pillars, right? And that's the point that we're trying to talk about today. We got to have these foundational pieces in place before we scale. So Lesie, why don't you introduce this concept of operational pillars to our listeners?
Yeah, it's really important. So when I first meet with a doctor, one of my first coaching calls with them, I ask them 3 very important questions. And it will surprise you what their answers are. One of them they all know. The other 2 they guess at. And then they're very surprised when the reality hits them across the head. So I ask 3 very important questions. 1, what are your new patient numbers per month? And I can usually get that number from them. Oh, I'm between 120 and 130. All right, and of those numbers, right, how many new patients have called to set an appointment? And then how many have actually shown up for their appointment? They have no idea. They don't track that. My second question is, what is your case acceptance rate? None of them ever can answer that question because they don't track it, which is one of the most important KPIs that we want to track, and especially in ortho in general. And then the third question is, how are your collections? And they'll always tell me, oh, our collections are good. I mean, I'm sure we're sitting at about 95% of our adjusted production.
95%.
Which, that's benchmark. 95, 98% is benchmark. And they all think they're within benchmark until I ask for the reports. And I always tell them on those 3 questions. The case acceptance, they'll always tell me, oh, I'm at least 70%. I know it. I always cut that by 20%. In reality, if you think you're 70, expect 50. And then when they say, my collections are great, I'm at about 95%, and I pull up that AR report and I'm like, no, you're not. You've got a lot of money out there. You've been working for free. So, and it's always very surprising. So those are the pillars. Pillar number 1, new patient numbers. Pillar number 2, case acceptance. Pillar number 3, collections. And if there are any cracks in any one of those pillars, we have to fix that pillar before you can build on them. And then, all right, so if you've got those 3 pillars and they're intact and they're running well, you add really great leadership on top of that, the sky is the limit. You can do anything. So with those 3 pillars and great leadership, it's a win. It's an absolute win every single time.
This is awesome. I didn't expect this for some reason. It was interesting that you just dove right into these key performance indicators that are, you just have it nailed. Like, hey, it's this, this, and this. Why do you think that doctors aren't aware of those second 2? Are the practice management systems not pushing those reports to the
no,
forefront?
the reports are there. The reports are there in every system, even the smaller ones. The reports are there. It's that the doctors tend to rely on their in-office leadership to monitor this stuff. They are focused on patient care. I'm the dentist. I just want to focus on dentistry. I don't want to worry about this other stuff. I'm just assuming it's good because I've got money in my pocket at the end of every month, right? And it's really, you can't scale thinking that way. And that's why I talk about that entrepreneur mindset versus the executive mindset. An executive is going to have very regular meetings with their in-office leadership and ask these important questions. Where are we with our scheduling? Where are we with my case acceptance? You should always have a treatment coordinator on your team. Talk with your treatment coordinator, train your treatment coordinator, and then always ask, how are my collections going? At the end of every month, you should be looking at these reports. You should be getting reports at the end of every single day. You need to be involved in the business side of your practice. That's the executive side. But they're so focused on chairside and just assuming everything's going well that it surprises them when it is brought to their attention.
Yeah, it comes full circle, right? That mind shift from what would you call it, the chairside entrepreneur, where they feel comfortable in that role of I'm kicking butt on the clinical side, but
Right.
they haven't shifted that mindset to be an executive leader. Because Clint and I, our background is in SaaS technology, right? So when you're talking about these KPIs and these reports and conversions and things, I mean, you're speaking a SaaS language in my mind, right? Talking about leads and conversion rates and all these things that you have to have dialed in. You need to know your conversion rates on every aspect of the business so that you feel comfortable and confident that you can coach to it. I love you mentioned training. You can coach to it. That then when you pour fuel on that fire, you know it's going to grow. But if you haven't made that mindset shift to become an executive, where those reports are gold and you call them KPIs for a reason, right? You're measuring these key performance indicators on a regular basis and training to those numbers. Yeah, naturally the wheels are going to fall off if you're
That's
not
right.
ready and prepared to do that. And building good habits and meeting structures and one-on-ones around those, I can totally see why those are the three pillars that you tackle first with all these people you're consulting.
Yeah, and then those three pillars really drill down into a lot of things, right? And when we talk about three pillars, and you're talking about just one pillar, right? It's not just, hey, new patients. It's not just case acceptance. It drills down into so many granular areas of the practice that have so much room to grow. But I think where a lot of dentists get stuck, and I hear this a lot, especially when they're chairside entrepreneurs, right? And they're working 4 or 5 days a week. Some of them are working 6 days a week, patient care, because they're the biggest producer in the office. Like, my associates aren't producing what I produce. I have to be chairside. Well, that's when you need to pour yourself and bleed yourself into your associates. Teach them what you know, mentor them, so that you can step away and let the practice make money for you, even though you're not chairside. So that's the biggest hurdle that I fall into immediately, right? So, and then the other hurdles that I have, the new patient pillar is usually one of the easiest ones to fix. That's a marketing type of situation. Let's talk about your marketing. Let's analyze your return on investment with marketing. Let's see what we can do, some boots on the ground, that type of stuff. And I work with other coaches that are experts in marketing. It is not my lane by any means. I've never pretended for it to be. But the other two very much are. And so when we're talking about case acceptance, me being a treatment coordinator for a very long time in a lot of specialty, I have a philosophy on treatment care coordinators and new patient coordinators and what works best in an office. And sometimes when I tell a dentist this, because right now a lot of offices, when it comes to treatment coordination and presenting finances and procedures and educating a patient, there's a handoff. It's almost like buying a car, right? You go in, you're shopping for your car, you're working with the sales guy, and he's showing you all the cars and taking you for rides. But then when it comes to the finances, you're handed off to the F&I guy, right? And you don't know him. You've never met him before, and he's talking about the most important part, your finances. So I have a theory about that is proven successful, that I like to talk to them about and try and get them to kind of flip their mindset on case acceptance and how we improve that number by just making some tweaks to the position itself. And then when it comes to collections, I love revenue cycle management. So I love sitting down next to the office people who are responsible for collections and claims, and just working through some processes with them, because a lot of times they've had to teach themselves. And it's like the phone game. Remember playing the phone game when you were little, right? You whisper it, and by the time it comes around the circle, it's something totally different. Well, it's kind of the same in those positions. You know, they've learned one thing, they've tweaked it themselves. Before you know it, they're winging it the best that they can. And so it's nice to be able to sit down next to them and teach them what I know. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like there's layers to all these things, right? You're just touching the surface when you talk about these 3 pillars. I wish we could we try to keep these episodes to 20 minutes, and I'm like, we could probably go for 60 here. We could just start drilling down to each pillar. Maybe we'll have Lesie come back another
She'd have to
time,
bill us, Jake. She'd have to bill us if she went too deep.
No, I might.
yeah, exactly. Give us all the secrets. But I think it's just so it's one of those things that it's like obvious, but at the same time, it's missed so often.
Well, it's obvious to us. Looking from the outside in, it's obvious. When you are knee deep into it, you don't see what's around you because you're just consumed in it. So you're consumed in the day to day. So that's why it's always great to bring someone in like me or other coaches out there, or just an outside perspective that is not working on either side. It's like, I'm just here to help you. Let me tell you what I find, and here's my recommendations, my suggestions. I don't force anything on anyone. I just, here's what I know. Use it or not. And just give them that and let them think through it. And I'm just here to help. I'm just here to assist them, give them some advice.
So Lesie, since we're kind of at time here, let's finish with this. What advice would you give to operators to start to identify these constraints and identify which ones maybe need the most attention? Where would you start to help people identify if those are weaknesses that they have, and which ones might be the biggest?
Right. Well, the first thing I would tell doctors is that they need to be meeting with their leadership team. They have to have these regular cadence meetings with them and ask questions. Where are we financially? What does the AR look like? They have to ask these questions. They need to understand their business. And then they also need to be transparent with the leaders in their practice and allow them to understand where the practice is, so that when decisions are made, they're educated decisions, such as an office manager coming and asking for a raise, or asking to hire someone else on the team and not understanding what that bottom line number is, right? So I always recommend transparency on both sides, and in making sure that your leadership understands how to run a practice. You know, you can't hire somebody who has no experience and expect them to understand how to help you grow a practice. So that's always my advice. Just know the business side of your practice. Take the time, learn it, ask the questions, and dive into your reports. Get reports at the end of every single day. Don't ignore them. Don't not want them. Get them. Understand them. I think it's probably the top that I would recommend. Sometimes
and
the hardest.
a couple of those things you mentioned, and it sounds counterintuitive, but you're encouraging people to slow down, right? Taking some time to dive into the executive mindset is absolutely necessary for you to lay these pillars to accelerate your growth. You got to slow down. You got to take time for that. If you're just 100% chairside 12 hours a day or whatever it is, just grinding because you're the top producer, you're not making time to slow down. Look at these reports, train people, and prepare yourself to grow. So I love that that advice, right? Just slow down and you'll lay that foundation. So let's wrap it up then. Lesie, give us what's some final advice for leaders preparing to scale?
Oh, final advice. Take your time. Do your research, right? Know your practice. And when I'm talking about in-office leaders, as far as office managers, understand your role. Meet with your doctor frequently. Educate him as much as he's educating you. And be a good leader to your team. Don't just manage, lead. You'll get a lot more out of the people that are doing the actual day-to-day operations if you lead better than you manage. So that would be my top, probably my top advice.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's good stuff.
Yeah. Leslie, you are awesome. Thank you so much for taking some time with us. Really, really good information, hopefully beneficial to operators and owners and doctors alike. Really, really good stuff. Where can people reach you at, Leslie, if they want to learn more, connect with you? What's the best way?
Yes, absolutely. You can go to DEO website. I am on there as one of their coaches if you want to explore DEO and what I do for the DEO. Or you can hit me up on LinkedIn, Lesie Espanola. I'm on LinkedIn, and would love to hear. I'm always there to help, give advice, recommendations. I won't charge for that. So I welcome it. I welcome it.
That's awesome. Well, Leslie, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We hope that you found this episode insightful. I know I did. Please help us share this resource to other operators by liking and subscribing, sharing. We hope to establish something here for the operator community so that we can all help support each other to lift the industry to new levels. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, Leslie, and we'll catch y'all next time.
Thank you.